The stars themselves seemed to dim when the Brax warships moved through space. Their massive vessels looked like giant black insects with glowing red engines. For 200 years, they had spread across the galaxy, taking one solar system after another. Grand Commander Vex stood on the bridge of the Harvester, the largest ship in the Brax fleet. He was taller than most Brax, with a hard, shiny exoskeleton that had turned dark gray with age. 6 red eyes were set in his elongated head, and his mandibles clicked together when he was deep in thought. "Report," he ordered, his voice deep and raspy. Officer Mech approached with a bow. "The Talon system has fallen, Grand Commander. Their defense fleet was destroyed in under 2 hours. Our ground forces have secured all major cities on their home planet." Vex nodded slowly. "Casualties?" "Minimal, sir. The Talon weapons were primitive. They had no chance." A satisfied hiss escaped from between Vex's mandibles. "Add their resources to our inventory. Begin processing their population for labor." "Yes, Grand Commander." Vex turned to the large display that showed a map of the galaxy. Nearly all of it glowed with the red light that marked Brax territory. Only the outer edges remained untouched. "Soon," Vex whispered to himself. "Soon it will all be ours." On the other side of the galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, humans went about their daily lives. They had explored their own solar system and established colonies on Mars and several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Their technology was advanced enough for limited travel between nearby stars, but they had never encountered intelligent alien life. Captain James Drake stood in the observation deck of the Moon Base Alpha, looking down at Earth. He was a tall man with short brown hair and a serious face that rarely smiled. At 42, he had spent most of his life in space, rising through the ranks of Earth's defense fleet. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Drake turned to see Admiral Wilson walking toward him. The older man had been Drake's mentor for many years. "It is," Drake agreed, "and soon I'll be leaving it again." Wilson nodded. "The Defiance is almost ready. Are you excited to take command?" Drake allowed himself a small smile. "It's the most advanced ship we've ever built. Who wouldn't be excited?" The two men gazed out at the distant blue sphere of Earth. "The Defiance is more than just a new ship," Wilson said quietly. "It's our insurance policy." Drake looked at him sharply. "Against what?" Wilson's face was grim. "We've been detecting strange signals from the Centauri sector. Something's out there, Drake. Something big. Alien life. Possibly. And if it is, we need to be ready." 3 weeks later, Drake stood in the docking bay of the Jupiter station, looking up at his new command. The Defiance was unlike any ship he had ever seen. It was sleek and angular, with a dark gray hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. At 500 meters long, it wasn't the largest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was by far the most advanced. Lieutenant Anna Miller, his second in command, joined him. She was young but brilliant, with short black hair and an intense focus that had earned her the position despite her age. "She's beautiful," Miller said, gazing up at the ship. Drake nodded. "And deadly. The new plasma cannons can punch through any known shield. The dimensional drive will make us faster than anything else in space." "The crew is ready, sir. Final testing begins tomorrow." "Good. I want to push her to her limits. If the Defiance is going to protect Earth, we need to know exactly what she can do." For the next month, Drake and his crew of 200 put the Defiance through rigorous tests in the outer solar system. The ship performed beyond expectations, reaching speeds that made the stars blur and demonstrating weapons powerful enough to vaporize small asteroids with a single shot. Drake sat in the captain's chair on the bridge, reviewing the day's test results with Miller and Chief Engineer Tom Reed, a stocky man with a genius for engines and a perpetual oil stain on his uniform. "The dimensional drive is operating at 110% efficiency," Reed reported proudly. "I've never seen anything like it." Drake was about to respond when the communications officer called out, "Captain, Emergency transmission from Earth Command. Put it through, Drake ordered. Admiral Wilson's face appeared on the main screen. He looked pale, and his voice was urgent. Drake, we're under attack. Multiple unknown vessels have entered the solar system. They've already destroyed our outer defense platforms and... The transmission cut to static. Get him back, Drake shouted. I can't, sir, the communications officer replied, his voice shaking. All channels to Earth are being jammed. Drake turned to Miller. Battle stations, set course for Earth, maximum speed. The Defiance turned and accelerated toward home, the dimensional drive pushing it faster than any human vessel had ever traveled. But even at such speeds, it would take hours to reach Earth from their position near Neptune. Drake stood at the view screen, his face hard as stone. Tactical, give me any information you can get. I want to know what we're facing. As they raced toward Earth, scattered reports reached them. The attacking force was massive. Hundreds of ships with technology far beyond anything humans had developed. They had smashed through Earth's defenses like they were nothing. When the Defiance finally approached Earth orbit, Drake felt his heart sink. The planet's defense fleet had been reduced to floating debris. The moon base was a smoking ruin, and on Earth itself, great columns of smoke rose from every major city. My God, Miller whispered beside him. On the tactical display, they could see the alien ships, black, insect-like vessels with glowing red engines. Their landing troops, the tactical officer reported. Ground invasions in progress on all continents. Drake gripped the arms of his chair. Earth's government would fall within hours. Billions of lives were at stake, and his ship, one vessel, no matter how advanced, could not stop an invasion of this scale. Sir, Miller said quietly, what are your orders? Drake took a deep breath, making the hardest decision of his life. We can't save Earth. Not now. But we can survive. We can fight back. He turned to face his crew. The Defiance was built to protect humanity. To do that, we need to retreat, gather information about our enemy, and find a way to defeat them. Set course away from the solar system, he ordered. We're going to disappear, and then, when the time is right, we're going to come back and take our home. As the Defiance slipped away from the battle, Drake took one last look at the burning Earth. He made a silent promise to return, no matter how long it took. The invaders had conquered his world, but they had missed one ship, the one ship that might someday bring their empire crashing down. 3 days after their escape, the crew of the Defiance gathered in the ship's main meeting room. Faces were grim, eyes red from crying or lack of sleep. Captain Drake stood at the front, his shoulders heavy with the weight of their situation. I know you all want to go back, Drake said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. I do too. But if we return now, we'll die, and Earth will have no hope at all. Lieutenant Miller spoke up. Captain, we've been monitoring Earth's broadcasts. The Brax, that's what they call themselves. They've taken control of all major cities. Resistance forces are forming, but she couldn't finish. But they don't stand a chance, Drake completed her thought. Not against the technology we've seen. Chief Engineer Reed raised his hand. Sir, I've been analyzing what data we gathered during our escape. The Brax ships use some kind of energy field we've never seen before. It's why our weapons couldn't damage them. And that's exactly why we can't go back yet, Drake said. We need to understand them, learn their weaknesses, and then strike when they least expect it. A young communications officer named Lisa Jones stood up. Her face was streaked with tears. My family was in London. I can't just abandon them. Drake walked over to her and put a hand on her shoulder. We're not abandoning anyone. We're their best hope. The Defiance is more than just a ship now. We're carrying the future of humanity with us. He looked around at his crew. Starting today, we are at war. Our mission is to survive, learn everything we can about the Brax, and prepare to take back our home. 1 month later, The Defiance hovered at the edge of the Epsilon Indi system, using a small uninhabited planet to hide from Brax patrols. Drake had established a routine for the crew, dividing them into teams for research, reconnaissance, and maintaining the ship. Dr. Alice Hayes, the ship's chief scientist, had set up a makeshift lab in one of the cargo bays. She was a short woman with graying hair and a fierce intelligence that had earned her multiple awards before the invasion. "Captain, you need to see this," she said as Drake entered her lab. She showed him a holographic display of what looked like an insect under a microscope. "This is a Brax cell sample we recovered from debris after our escape. Their biology is unlike anything we've seen. They're carbon-based, like us, but their cellular structure is incredibly complex." "Is that useful to us?" Drake asked. Hayes nodded eagerly. "Very. They have a unique sensitivity to certain radiation frequencies. It doesn't kill them, but it disrupts their neural patterns. Think of it as an instant migraine." Drake's eyes lit up. "Can we use that?" "Potentially. Reed and I are working on modifying one of our secondary weapons systems to emit that specific frequency." For the first time in weeks, Drake felt a spark of hope. Back on Earth, the Brax had transformed the planet. Massive processing facilities now covered what had once been major cities. Humans were rounded up and sorted, some put to work in mines and factories, others sent off-world for unknown purposes. Grand Commander Vex had established his headquarters in what used to be New York City. The gleaming skyscrapers had been replaced by a towering black structure that reached into the clouds. Vex gazed out over his new domain with satisfaction. "Report," he ordered as Officer Mech entered his chamber. "Earth's resources are exceeding expectations, Grand Commander. The water alone is more valuable than 3 standard planets, and the humans, while physically weak, show remarkable adaptability as workers." Vex clicked his mandibles in approval. "And the resistance? Small and disorganized. They have no significant weapons. They'll be crushed within weeks." "Excellent." Vex turned away from the window. "Any sign of the missing ship?" Mech hesitated. "No, Grand Commander. Our scouts have found no trace of it." Vex's 6 eyes narrowed. "One ship should not concern us. But I dislike loose ends. Find it." 6 months after Earth's fall, the Defiant had become a ghost, slipping in and out of systems at the edges of Brax territory. They observed Brax ships from a distance, gathered information, and occasionally raided small outposts for supplies. Drake sat in his quarters reviewing the latest intelligence. They had learned much about the Brax, their hierarchical society, their advanced technology, and most importantly, some of their weaknesses. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Miller walked in, looking excited. "Captain, we've made contact with another resistance group. They're not human, but they hate the Brax as much as we do." Drake sat up straight. "Where?" "The Proxima system. They call themselves the Velox. Their planet was one of the first the Brax conquered, over 100 years ago." This was the breakthrough Drake had been waiting for. "Set course for Proxima. Let's meet our new friends." 2 days later, the Defiance entered the Proxima system, carefully avoiding Brax patrol routes they had mapped over months of observation. They landed on a small moon where, according to their information, the Velox resistance had a hidden base. Drake led a small team to the surface. They walked through a narrow canyon until they reached what looked like a solid rock wall. As they approached, a section of the wall shimmered and disappeared, revealing a hidden entrance. A tall, slender being stepped out. It had blue-gray skin, large almond-shaped eyes, and 4 arms. It raised 2 of its hands in what appeared to be a greeting. "I am Trell, leader of the Free Velox," it said in a surprisingly melodic voice. "You are the humans who escaped the Brax." Drake nodded. "I'm Captain James Drake of the Earth ship Defiance. We've been fighting the Brax for 6 months now." Trell's large eyes blinked slowly. 6 months. We have been fighting for a century. Come inside, Captain Drake. We have much to share." Inside the moon base, Drake discovered a sophisticated operation. The Velox had been gathering intelligence on the Brax for generations. They had maps of Brax territory, details on their fleet movements, and even some understanding of their technology. The Brax are not invincible, Trell explained as they studied a holographic map of the galaxy. They have conquered much, but their empire has grown too large. They stretch themselves thin to maintain control. Drake leaned forward, studying the map. Do you know why they do it? Why conquer so much? Trell's 4 arms moved in a complex gesture that might have been the equivalent of a shrug. They consume resources, technology, knowledge. They take it all. But we believe there is more to it. Something drives them to expand without end. Drake thought of Earth, transformed into a resource extraction hub. Whatever their reason, they need to be stopped. And I think the Defiance might be the key. He explained their ship's advanced technology and the modifications they had made based on what they had learned about Brax biology. Trell's eyes widened. This could change everything. The Brax have never faced a serious threat since they began their expansion. A single ship, striking where they least expected. Trell paused, then continued with new intensity. Perhaps the time has come to do more than just survive. For the first time since Earth fell, Drake allowed himself to think beyond mere resistance. Yes, he said, determination hardening his voice. The time has come to fight back. 3 years passed. The Defiance was no longer just a warship. It had become a symbol of hope for a growing network of resistance fighters across dozens of systems. Captain Drake had aged during this time, lines deepening on his face, gray streaking his once brown hair. But his eyes burned with the same determination. The ship itself had changed too. Its sleek hull was now covered with patches of different metals, giving it a patchwork appearance. Chief Engineer Reed had integrated alien technology from 6 different species, making the Defiance unlike any vessel in the galaxy. Status report, Drake said as he entered the bridge, which was now staffed by a mix of humans and aliens. Lieutenant Miller, now his trusted second-in-command, turned from her station. The raid on the Brax supply depot was successful. We got the fuel cells and the data crystals. Casualties? None. In and out clean, just as planned. Drake nodded, relief washing over him. Each mission was a risk. Every crew member was irreplaceable. Trell, who had become the ship's intelligence officer, approached with a datapad. The information from the crystals confirms our suspicions, Captain. The Brax are building something massive in the Ta City system. Drake studied the information. A new weapon. We think so, but we need more data. Set course for the edge of Ta City, Drake ordered. We need to see this for ourselves. The hidden years had not been easy. At first, the crew of the Defiance had been united by shock and grief. But as months stretched into years, tensions grew. Some wanted to focus on rescuing human survivors from Earth. Others argued that defeating the Brax should be their only goal. Dr. Hayes had been the first to reach a breaking point. Drake found her in her lab late one night, tears streaming down her face as she stared at pictures of her family. I'm a scientist, she had told him, her voice breaking. Not a soldier. I never wanted this war. None of us did, Drake had replied gently. But we're all that's left. Over time, they had learned to live with their pain, channeling it into purpose. Each small victory against the Brax gave them strength to continue. Now, as the Defiance approached Ta City, Drake called his top officers to the meeting room. Reed, Miller, Hayes, Trell, and Jones, the core team that had been with him from the beginning. We've been fighting the guerrilla war for 3 years, Drake said, looking at each of them. Hit-and-run tactics, gathering allies, building our strength. But we need to do more. He activated a holographic display showing Earth. Recent images showed that the Brax had transformed it even further, covering nearly half the surface with their structures. Whatever they're doing on Earth, it's accelerating, Drake continued. And now this new project in Ta City. We need to understand what they're planning. Reed cleared his throat. Captain, I think it's time to test our new weapon. All eyes turned to the engineer. For the past year, Reed and Hayes have been working on something they called Project Thunder, a weapon that combined human dimensional drive technology with the radiation frequency that disrupted Brack's neural patterns. Is it ready? Drake asked. Reed nodded. As ready as it'll ever be. If it works, it could disable an entire Brack ship without destroying it. We could capture one intact. Drake considered this. Capturing a Brack ship would not only provide valuable intelligence, but also prove the Bracks could be defeated. The risk is significant, Trell pointed out. If we are captured, the Resistance loses its flagship, and the Bracks would learn about all our allies. True, Drake agreed, but sometimes you have to risk everything to win anything. After hours of debate, they'd reached a decision. They would target a medium-sized Brax cruiser on patrol near Taw City, test the new weapon, and attempt to capture the vessel. 2 days later, the Defiance lay in wait behind a small moon. Their target, a Brax cruiser, followed its regular patrol route through the system. On the bridge, tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. This would be their first direct engagement with a Brax warship in over 2 years. Weapon charged at 100%. Reed reported from his station. All systems ready, Miller added. Boarding teams standing by. Drake took a deep breath. Engage dimensional drive. Take us in fast. The Defiance shot forward, appearing seemingly out of nowhere next to the Brax cruiser. Before the alien ship could react, Reed fired the new weapon. A pulse of energy, invisible to the naked eye, but powerful enough to make the ship's sensors flicker, struck the Brax vessel. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the cruiser's engines died. Its weapons went dark. It worked. Reed shouted, disbelief and joy in his voice. Boarding teams, go, Drake ordered. Miller led the assault team, docking with the disabled Brax ship and cutting through its hull. The team moved efficiently through the alien corridors, encountering confused and disoriented Brax who couldn't put up an effective resistance. Within an hour, they had control of the ship. For the first time, humans had captured a fully intact Brax vessel. Back on the Defiance, Drake examined their prize through the view screen. Begin full analysis. I want to know every secret this ship holds. Hayes was already scanning the Brax computer systems. Captain, there's something you need to see. On her screen was a star map showing Earth and several nearby systems. All were marked with the same symbol. What does it mean? Drake asked. Hayes' face was pale. According to their data, these are life harvest sites. Earth isn't just being mined for resources. They're harvesting humans themselves. A horrified silence fell over the bridge. Why? Miller finally asked. What do they want with humans? Hayes continued reading. Their species is dying. Some kind of genetic degradation. They're using DNA from conquered species to try to save themselves. Drake stared at the information, a cold fury building inside him. So this is why they've conquered half the galaxy. Not just for resources or territory. They're desperate. Trell moved closer, all 4 arms tense. Desperate enemies are the most dangerous kind, but also the most vulnerable, Drake countered. Now we know their true weakness, and we can use it against them. For the first time since Earth fell, Drake saw a clear path to victory. The Brax were not invincible conquerors. They were a dying species fighting for survival, just like humanity. Set course for the rendezvous point, he ordered. It's time to gather all our allies. We're not just going to keep hiding and surviving. We're going to take the fight to the Brax. As the Defiance and its captured prize jumped away from Taw City, Drake felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Hope. Not just hope for survival, but hope for victory. Hope for Earth. 7 years had passed since Earth fell. The Defiance was no longer alone. A small fleet of 12 ships now traveled with it. vessels captured from the Brax and modified with the technology that Reed had developed. Each was crewed by a mix of species who had joined the resistance. Drake stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the tactical display. Their fleet was small compared to the Brax Armada, but each ship carried the weapon that could disable Brax systems. And now, after years of preparation, they were about to attempt something that had seemed impossible. They were returning to Earth. "All ships report ready," Captain Miller said. She was now a commander, her once young face hardened by years of combat. Drake nodded. "Send the signal. Begin Operation Homecoming." The fleet jumped into dimensional space, vanishing from their hiding place at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. The journey to Earth would take just 3 hours with their improved drives. Drake retreated to his quarters for what might be the last time. On his desk sat a small hologram of Earth as it once was. Blue oceans, green and brown landmasses, white clouds swirling in its atmosphere. He had looked at it every day for 7 years, reminding himself what they were fighting for. A knock came at his door. "Enter," he called. Trell stepped in, all 4 arms held close to his body in what Drake had learned was a sign of respect. "The crew wished me to speak with you," the alien said. "We want you to know that whatever happens today, you have given the galaxy something it has not had in centuries. Hope." Drake smiled slightly. "We haven't won yet." "No," Trell agreed, "but we have shown that the Brax can be fought. That alone is a victory." Drake stood and extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship that Trell had learned years ago. The alien grasped it with his upper right arm. "It has been an honor, James Drake," Trell said formally. "The honor has been mine," Drake replied. "Now let's go take back my world." The fleet dropped out of dimensional space just beyond the orbit of Earth's moon. Immediately, alarms sounded across the bridge. "Brax defenses detected," the tactical officer reported. "Orbital platforms, patrol ships. They spotted us." Drake had expected nothing less. "Deploy according to plan. Groups 1 and 2, target the orbital platforms. Group 3, engage the patrol ships. The Defiance will punch through to Earth orbit." The battle began. The resistance ships moved with perfect coordination, targeting the Brax defenses with their special weapons. One by one, the Brax ships went dark, drifting powerless in space. But the Brax had numbers on their side. For every ship the resistance disabled, 3 more moved to attack. And not all of the resistance weapons worked perfectly. Some Brax vessels seemed to have developed partial immunity to their effects. "They've adapted," Reed said, his voice tight with worry. "Not completely, but enough to give them more time to react." Drake watched as one of their ships, the Freedom, took heavy damage from a Brax cruiser. "All ships, focus fire on Sector 7. We need to open a path." The battle raged for over an hour. 3 resistance ships were lost, but the Brax defenses were crumbling. Finally, a gap opened in the defensive line. "Now," Drake ordered, "full power to engines. Take us to Earth." The Defiance shot forward, diving toward the blue planet. As they entered orbit, the crew fell silent at the sight below. Earth had been transformed. Vast black structures covered much of North America and Europe. The oceans had been darkened in places by massive floating platforms. The Amazon rainforest had been replaced by a single enormous facility that glowed with eerie green light. "Life signs?" Drake asked, his voice barely audible. Hayes checked her scanners. "Human population approximately 1 billion, mostly concentrated in what appear to be labor camps. Brax presence is heavy, at least 10 million, with the highest concentration in North America." Drake took a deep breath. "Take us down. Target the command center." In his headquarters in what had once been New York City, Grand Commander Vex received the alert. His mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation that his officers rarely saw. "One of the attacking ships has broken through," Officer Mech reported. "It's heading directly for us." "Impossible," Vex hissed. "No single ship would dare." Sensors confirm it is approaching our airspace. And sir, it appears to be of human design. Vex's 6 eyes widened. The missing ship. After all these years, he turned to his communications officer. Order all available forces to intercept. I want that ship destroyed. But even as he gave the order, alarms sounded throughout the headquarters. The human ship had entered the atmosphere and was diving straight toward them. The Defiance shook violently as it cut through Earth's atmosphere. Brax fighters swarmed around it, firing continuously at its shields. Shields at 60%, Miller reported. We can't take much more of this. Drake gripped his chair. Stay on course. Arm all weapons. Target the main tower. Below them, the massive black tower that served as the Brax headquarters loomed larger. Surface-to-air weapons fired, filling the sky with deadly energy bolts. Shields at 40%, 30%. Fire everything we have, Drake ordered. The Defiance unleashed its full arsenal. Conventional weapons hammered the tower's shields while their special weapon, now refined after years of development, penetrated them, targeting the Brax control systems inside. The tower's lights flickered and died. Its defenses went silent. Direct hit, Miller shouted. Their systems are down. Get us on the ground, Drake ordered. Boarding teams ready. The Defiance landed in what had once been Central Park, crushing the alien structures that had replaced the trees. Brax ground forces were already converging on their position, but they seemed disorganized, confused by the sudden loss of their command center. Drake led the first team out of the ship. For the first time in 7 years, he stood on Earth's soil. The air smelled different, metallic and strange, but it was still home. Move out, he ordered. Take the tower. Find Vex. As his team advanced toward the darkened Brax headquarters, word of their arrival spread. From the labor camps around the city, humans watched in disbelief as the Defiance, a human ship, battled the invincible Brax. And for the first time in 7 years, they began to hope. Inside the tower, Vex ordered his personal guard to prepare for battle. The humans had returned, just as he had always feared they might. But he was not defeated yet. The Brax Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds. One ship, no matter how advanced, could not change that. Or could it? As Drake and his team fought their way deeper into the tower, that question hung in the balance. The fate of Earth, perhaps the fate of the galaxy, would be decided in the next few hours. Drake and his team fought their way through the dark corridors of the Brax headquarters. The special weapons they carried disrupted the Brax nervous systems, leaving the aliens disoriented and unable to mount an effective defense. Still, there were hundreds of them, and the team had to move carefully. Command level is 2 floors up, Miller said, checking the building schematics they had downloaded. That's where Vex will be. Drake nodded. Team 1 with me. Team 2, secure the communication center. We need to broadcast to the entire planet. As they climbed higher in the tower, resistance grew fiercer. The Brax here wore different armor, golden instead of black, and seemed less affected by the disruption weapons. Elite guards, Trell explained as they took cover behind a fallen column. They have mural shielding. Drake switched his weapon to conventional mode. Then we do this the old-fashioned way. The firefight was intense but brief. Drake's team had years of combat experience, while the Brax had grown complacent after easy victories. Soon they reached the massive doors that led to the command center. Breaching charges, Drake ordered. Reed placed the explosives carefully, then nodded to Drake. Ready. Fire in the hole. The explosion shook the entire floor. As the smoke cleared, Drake led the way into the command center, a vast chamber filled with strange technology and dominated by a raised platform at its center. There stood Grand Commander Vex. The Brax leader was taller than the others, his exoskeleton darker and more powerful looking. He held a staff that crackled with energy, and his 6 red eyes fixed on Drake with cold intelligence. So, Vex said, his voice a deep, rattling sound. The last human warship returns at last. Drake raised his weapon. It's over, Vex. Your control systems are down. Your fleet is in disarray. Surrender now. Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. Surrender. The Brax do not surrender. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We will rebuild from this setback. Not this time, Drake replied. We know why you're doing this, why you've taken so many worlds. Your species is dying. Vex's mandibles clicked rapidly. You know nothing, human. We know everything. We captured one of your ships, accessed your databases. You're harvesting DNA from other species, trying to save yourselves from extinction. That's why you need Earth, why you need humans. For a moment, Vex was silent. Then he lowered his staff slightly. Yes, for centuries, our population has been declining. Our children are born weak, if they are born at all. But the human genome, it is compatible with ours in ways no other species has been. You are our salvation. Drake took a step forward. At the cost of our freedom, our world. A necessary sacrifice, Vex said dismissively. One species must die so another can live. Or, Drake countered, we could help each other, your scientists and ours, working together instead of as conqueror and conquered. Vex's laughter filled the chamber. Cooperation. Weakness. The Brax take what we need. And look where that's gotten you, Drake said. Your empire is falling apart. Even now, the news is spreading across the galaxy. The Resistance fleet has broken through your defenses. The invincible Brax have been defeated. Vex roared in anger, raising his staff. I will kill you myself. He lunged forward with surprising speed. Drake fired, but Vex deflected the shots with his staff. In seconds, the Brax commander was upon him, swinging the energy weapon in a deadly arc. Drake rolled aside, the staff missing him by inches. Miller and the others fired, but Vex's personal shield absorbed the shots. This would be a one-on-one fight. Drawing his combat knife, Drake circled the Brax leader. 7 years of built-up rage and determination fueled him. This creature represented everything that had been taken from humanity. Their home, their freedom, their future. Vex attacked again, the staff cutting through the air with a crackling hiss. This time, Drake didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped inside the swing, accepting a glancing blow to his shoulder in exchange for getting close enough to drive his knife into a gap in Vex's exoskeleton. The Brax commander shrieked, a high-pitched sound that hurt human ears. Black fluid leaked from the wound as Vex staggered backward. This changes nothing, Vex gasped. Kill me, and another will take my place. The Brax are eternal. Drake shook his head. No, you're just another species fighting to survive. But you chose the wrong way to do it. He raised his weapon, aiming at Vex's head. And you chose the wrong planet to invade. A single shot echoed through the command center. Vex collapsed, his 6 eyes going dark forever. 3 hours later, Drake stood on the roof of the tower. The Defiance had sent the signal to the rest of the Resistance fleet, and they had secured orbit around Earth. More importantly, they had broadcast the news of Vex's death to every Brax ship and colony in the system. The effect was immediate. Without their leader, the Brax command structure began to fall apart. Some ships fled, while others surrendered. On the ground, human resistance fighters emerged from hiding, attacking Brax positions that were now vulnerable without central coordination. Miller joined Drake on the roof, her face scratched but triumphant. Reports coming in from around the planet. The Brax are in full retreat. Some of their commanders are even offering to negotiate. Drake looked out over what had once been New York City. The alien structures still dominated the landscape, but here and there, fires burned as humans reclaimed their territory. What about the other planets? He asked. The other species the Brax enslaved. The word is spreading, Miller said. Our alien allies are transmitting the news across Brax communication channels. Rebellions are breaking out everywhere. Reed appeared at the doorway, his face split by an enormous grin. Captain, "You need to see this." He handed Drake a tablet showing a live feed from one of the labor camps. Thousands of humans were celebrating in the streets, tearing down Brax symbols, and raising makeshift Earth flags. "It's happening all over," Reed said. "Not just here, on every world the Brax conquered. The Empire is collapsing." Drake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. 7 years of running, hiding, and fighting. And now, finally, victory. "What about the Brax genetic problem?" Miller asked quietly. "Without human DNA, their species will die out." Drake watched the celebrations below. "We'll offer to help them, the right way. Not as conquerors and slaves, but as equals. Maybe that's the real lesson here." As the sun set over Earth for the first time in 7 years without Brax rule, Drake thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. One ship, just one ship that the Brax had missed, had been enough to change the course of galactic history. The Defiance had lived up to its name. "Send a message to all our allies," Drake said. Tell them Earth is free. And soon, the galaxy will be too." Below them, the celebration continued to spread, a wave of hope and freedom that would eventually reach every corner of the stars.